episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, SGS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. It is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime as we cover trending criminal cases, and perhaps no bigger case than this one going on in the United States than the accused Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann. He is responsible for multiple deaths in a part of Long Island known as Gilgo Beach. At least that's what police say. He has been in jail in Suffolk County for a good amount of time. And momentarily, Suffolk County police are going to hold a press conference to update people on the case. But more importantly, there are two victims still that have not been identified, maybe more than that, but two kind of glaring, victims whose IDs have escaped authorities. And that is a woman because of her tattoo known as Peaches, and her toddler daughter, I believe, is 4 years old. Happy to welcome back to this show True Crime with the Sarge, none other than Sergeant Joe Giacalone, who is retired NYPD sergeant. He's been all over this case. Took a little bit of time off to deal with a personal issue, and he is back and better than ever. Joe, happy to see you back here. Great to have you back. How are you doing before we get into everything else?
Good, Joel. Thanks for having me back on. Yeah, just getting back to my sea legs, so to speak. So we're working on this.
Nice. And I know you saw our friend Scott Duffy at the
Yes.
Hamptons true crime thing. So Joe, first of all, Joe just happened by kind of almost serendipity. He went out and did a video about Peaches specifically. Where do we find the video, Joe, so people can go and watch it?
Well, yeah, I have my own YouTube channel. It's called True Crime with the Sarge, and I happened to be out, for the Hamptons Whodunit, so I had stopped by. Believe it or not, after living in Long Island for so many years, I had never really went there. So I wanted to go there and lay out the land, so to speak, and see if I can find the exact spot. I think I did, but I talked about a couple of things. I even said in the video that I believe that the authorities already knew who she was, and they were just waiting for a next of kin notification. Because in law enforcement, that's what you do. You usually don't come out publicly with anything until you can have something into it. But apparently, I think from what I hear, that they have known who these victims were for quite a while, and I'm just hoping to see that they shed some light on that.
So the issue here, by the way, we're looking as you see here. I guess it's Nassau County,
Yes.
in Mineola. It was Peaches. Were her remains and the toddler's remains found in Nassau County? Is that why it's being held here? What's going on, Joe?
Well, only Peaches was found in Nassau County. Both times, her original case was Hempstead Lake State Park, which is in a town called Lakeview, and that's where the Rubbermaid barrel was found, where unfortunately she was missing her head, her hands, and her feet. Now, her hands and her feet were recovered in April of 2011 at Jones Beach, near the Jones Beach Monument, which is also right near the Wantaw Parkway, which falls under Nassau County. Her daughter, Peaches, was found at the extreme end of Ocean Parkway in Suffolk County. So Peaches is 100% a Nassau County case. I don't know if the jurisdictional issues are going to play a role in this in case they ever have to, prosecute anybody, but we're going to see it. We're going to watch that carefully.
Let's unmute this, guys. COE, can you unmute? I can't do it on my end. Stand by.
Yeah, they're playing music for now. So once they put the music, once they turn the music off, we'll pull it up.
Okay, so there we go. So Joe Giacalone. Again, if you're just joining, Joe is a retired NYPD sergeant. He also ran a cold case unit. When you say that you think they've had the ID of Peaches, and by the way, Peaches reportedly, according to authorities, she was with this 4-year-old female toddler that also has not been identified. So Peaches remains, as you just heard Joe say, were found in Nassau County. What do we know, Joe, about? I mean, it was her daughter, I presume.
Get it out. We'll start momentarily. All right, everybody set? Thank you. Okay.
That is the New York. We're going to start momentarily. So, Joe, I mean, this is her daughter. We know this for a fact at this point.
Yes, it's already been confirmed via DNA. So in April of 2011, they found her remains. The interesting part of this, and I've talked about this at different times, is that Peaches and her daughter actually act as bookends for everybody in the middle, all the different cases from Gilgo. So it starts in Jones Beach, excuse me, and ends with Baby Doe all the way out at the furthest east point. So you covered everything in between. Every victim of this case so far is found on the north side of the Ocean Parkway. The only person that wasn't found was Shannan Gilbert. She was found on the south side of Ocean Parkway. So that's the other unique aspect of this case, that everybody is on the North Shore. So this individual, who we now know has been in charge with 7 of these cases, Rex Heuermann, he probably went down the Robert Moses Causeway right onto Ocean Parkway, because that's the north side, and then right up the Wanto Parkway right into Massapequa. And that's the other interesting part of this case. I've been a one serial killer theory person from the beginning. Looks like we're ready to go here.
Yeah, let's take a listen here, guys. And welcome to Dr. Megan Sachs, who is a professor of criminology in the graduate program at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and also hosts Women in Crime and Direct Appeal. I knew it. Women in Crime, Direct Appeal. Thank you. And look at this. This is quite the entourage.
Wow.
Yeah. Megan also grew up, right? Megan, not far from here. Is that right?
I grew up a mile from Rex Heuermann's house.
Whoa.
My name is Detective Lieutenant Scott Skronecki from the Public Information Office. We are here today to discuss updates on a 1997 homicide case. We have some of our friends in law enforcement here today to speak with you. You'll hear from the Police Commissioner, Patrick Ryder, the Nassau County District Attorney, Ann Donnelly. From the FBI, we have the Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office, Chris Rea, as well as the Special Agent in charge of the New York Criminal Division, Leslie Bakshies. To provide some details about the investigation, you'll hear from the Commanding Officer of the Homicide Squad, Detective Captain Stephen Fitzpatrick. Commissioner?
So good morning, everybody. I'm going to be really brief. First of all, I have to thank our partners, the District Attorney, who's done a great job, Suffolk County, who's worked with us, the FBI, who's done great work with us. We're not here if we're not working together as a team. That's the most important part. We just left the county exec's office. He got a full briefing on everything, so everybody is up to date on where we are, and you will get the information that we have here. My one announcement here today is any information leading to an arrest and hopefully a conviction of the person that did these horrendous acts. We are offering a $25,000 Crime Stoppers Award. So please, anybody with information, after you hear it from Detective Captain Fitz, please give us any information you have. There's a $25,000 Crime Stoppers reward. I'm now going to turn it over to the District Attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you also to the FBI, who has helped us so much in this investigation, the Suffolk County Police Department. Today is a bittersweet day. Today, after decades, we are finally going to be able to tell you the identities of 2 victims back from 1997. The mother's name was Tanya. The baby's name was Tatiana. You'll get more detailed information on their identities from Captain Fitzpatrick. The reality is, our work has just begun. Knowing the identities of the mom and the little baby is just a first step to help us get to solving these murders. Having their identities helps us now say to the public, please, if you knew Tanya, if you worked with her, if you met her at the grocery store, you had an interaction with her, please contact us and let us know. Every little thing we can find out about her leading up to her death will help us to solve this horrific, horrific crime. We stand here together, as the commissioner said. If it wasn't for our partners, we would never have gotten to this moment. We want to find out more about who they are and where they were and where they were coming from. My office is ready. My cold case unit and homicide prosecutors have worked alongside the Nassau County Police Department, the Suffolk Police Department, the FBI, to get us to this day. For the past few years, my prosecutors have helped piece together unsolved homicides and identify perpetrators. That work included prosecuting a known serial killer we connected with a more than 50-year-old homicide in one of the oldest DNA cases in the county. Solving aging cases like these are extraordinarily challenging, especially as evidence and people's memories fade in time. But we will never give up. We will never give up. Not on an unsolved homicide, not on Tanya and Tatiana. We will follow every lead. We will pull at every thread until we can get justice for this mother and this child. Tremendous work has been done already to get us to this point. I look forward to continuing this partnership and determining what happened to Tanya and Tatiana. Thank you.
All right, good morning. I'm Christopher Rea, the Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office. I first want to start by thanking the DA as well as the Police Commissioner in allowing us to be part of this press conference today, as well as being able to share our role as an assisting agency in this matter. It's an honor here to be in the presence with the Commissioner and the DA and the other law enforcement entities that work this case as we announce our joint role in working to identify Tanya and Tatiana. I hope today's announcement brings a sense of peace to their family and loved ones. I must first thank the persistent efforts of Nassau County Police Department. Their tireless work to ensure Tanya and Tatiana were not forgotten. And it's the reason we are all here today. This announcement highlights law enforcement partnerships at their finest. Investigators who were unwilling to yield and accept what may have seemed like a dead end, but instead sought new avenues to find answers. By inviting the FBI to help in this case, we were able to contribute new and innovative resources to the table in the form of our immensely skilled investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG team. You may have heard a lot about these teams recently in several cold cases across the country. The IGG team combines crime scene DNA with traditional genealogy research and historical records to generate leads to identify unknown DNA, which is what happened in this particular case. The meticulous work of our team, in partnership with the determined efforts of the detectives from the Nassau County Homicide Squad, ultimately helped confirm the identities of our victims in the case. I'd also like to thank the Suffolk County Police Department, both the Nassau and Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, the Nassau County Medical Examiner's Office, and the Suffolk County Crime Lab for their invaluable partnership and assistance in this investigation. This sharing of information and techniques demonstrates a crucial role of long-ship partnerships. Quite simply, this case would still be unknown victims had these partnerships not exist. Today, there is nothing we can't do. The FBI, as you've heard the director state many times, has a long memory, and we will always seek justice for victims, no matter how much time has passed. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for being here today to help us in this pursuit for justice. As you see up on the screens right now is the infamous tattoo of the peaches. Today, we'd like to provide an update on these identities of the two homicide victims who have historically been referred to by the nicknames Peaches and Baby Doe. The first victim was an African-American female. She was located over 27 years ago. On June 28, 1997, her torso was found in the Hempstead Lake State Park, which is located within Lakeview, New York. This victim had the tattoo you see up on the screen on her chest. It's a heart-shaped peach with a bite out of it with a drop coming from it. Based on this tattoo, the victim has commonly been referred to as Peaches. The second victim was Baby Doe. Baby Doe was the second victim discovered just over 14 years ago. On April 11th, 2011, she was found near Ocean Parkway in Babylon, New York, and has been included with the Gilgo Beach murders. This victim was a toddler. She was believed to be 2 years old at the time. She's been referred again as Baby Doe. In 2015, the victims were linked. Through DNA analysis, Peaches was identified as the mother for Baby Doe. Although we linked them together as mother and daughter, we still did not know their identities. In 2020, the FBI assisted us, and the DNA was turned over to their team. They began their investigative genetic genealogy studies, which would eventually lead to the identifications of these victims. Agents and detectives subsequently interviewed family members and obtained DNA samples to confirm the identities through our Nassau County Crime Lab. As a result of this technology, the interviews, the further DNA testing and analysis, we can now provide the names to both victims. Tanya is Tanya Denise Jackson. Tanya was born on October 22nd, 1970 in Alabama. When she was found in 1997, Tanya was 26 years old and a single mother. She was a U.S. Army veteran, as you see her in her fatigues. She was living in Brooklyn, New York. And at the time, she drove a 1991 Geo Storm color black. This is her daughter, Tatiana Marie Dykes. Tatiana Marie Dykes was born March 17th, 1995 in Texas. She was a 2-year-old female, and again, the body was discovered along Ocean Parkway in Babylon, Gilgo Beach area. Again, in 2015, she was linked to her mother through DNA analysis. This is both of them as they appeared back then. As the DA said, now we're asking for your help to get the word out to the public in our continued efforts to seek justice for Tanya and Tatiana. Please take a look at these photos. This is how they are in 1997. The next photos I'll show you is the jewelry that they were both wearing at the time their bodies were found. Also, the vehicle I mentioned that is similar to the one that Tanya owned. This is Tanya's jewelry. These are bracelets that she was wearing at the time. This is Tatiana's jewelry, a pair of earrings and a necklace. The aspects are front and side views of them. It's not multiple earrings. It's just the one pair. This is a Geo Storm that's similar to the car that Tanya owned and drove in 1997. Obviously, this is not the actual car. This is all the above photos you just saw. We now ask you again for the public's help. Please share any interactions you may have had with Tanya and Tatiana. Through our investigation, we've learned a lot about them, and as the DA says, we always want to learn more. More about Tanya Denise Jackson. There's some further information that might help people in the public to recall an encounter with her. Again, she was born October 22nd, 1970 in Alabama. She's also associated with Georgia, Texas, and Missouri. She's a U.S. Army veteran. In 1997, she was living at 230 54th Street in Brooklyn, New York. She was possibly employed at a doctor's office in a medical assistant capacity while living in Brooklyn. While she would go to work, it's reported to us that there might have been a female friend or neighbor who would watch the baby when she went to work. Tanya drove the 91 Geostorm. Tanya served honorably in the U.S. Army from July of 1993 to February of 1995 in the following military installations: Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas; Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia; Fort Leonard Wood in the Missouri Ozarks. Anybody who's in the military that might have served with her and remembers her, please be in touch, get in contact with us. Did you serve with her in the military? Were you a neighbor or coworker during her time here in Brooklyn? Maybe you saw them at a medical appointment where she worked, or were her friend. We want to hear from you. Now, although Tanya and Tatiana have commonly been linked to the Gilgo Beach serial killings because the timing and locations of their recovered remains, we are not discounting the possibility that their cases are unrelated from that investigation. Speculation and theories by people and on the internet should not be brought into this. As this investigation moves forward, we will continue to work closely with all our law enforcement, local and federal agencies to move forward, including Suffolk County. We'd like to thank all the agencies for all their help, for being here today, for ensuring that we could get to this point. This has been a culmination of a lot of work, as the district attorney said, for many different people over the years, retired detectives that still show interest, to call and tell us about things. We never gave up on striving for justice for either Tanya or Tatiana, and we will not. But we know there's more work to be done, and we're determined to find the reasons and circumstances that led to their untimely deaths. If you have any information, please reach out to us directly or through the Crime Stoppers number you will see soon. In conclusion, there's some people we'd like to thank. First of all, we'd like to thank the Crime Stoppers Board for their generosity of increasing the reward to $25,000. Next, a special thanks to the Nassau County crime victims and Douglas Matthey of Horton Matthey Funeral Home in Greenport, New York. Through their time and generosity, they helped us to make it possible to reunite Tanya and Tatiana and have them laid to rest back home in Alabama with their family in full military honors. Again, this is Tanya and Tatiana. We will not discuss evidence. We will not discuss suspects. We will not discuss any facts of this case. We're just giving information at this time and seeking feedback and information of people that knew them. But I will open it up to questions.
When did you identify them?
So back in 2020, we gave our DNA sample to the FBI. They started their work, which was long and tedious. Their research is, if you knew how much it took, it's incredible, the work that they put in. In 2022, I believe they came up with an identification they believe might be the two. In 23, we had a meeting with the FBI where they revealed their information to us, and we immediately started traveling to gather DNA samples, interview the family, and in early 24, we positively identified them as Tanya and Tatiana.
Have you identified the father of the child?
We have identified the father. We have spoken to him, and he's been cooperative.
Is he considered a person of interest?
I wouldn't even say that if it's true.
Did the father report them missing?
He did not. So she was, Tanya's relationship with a lot of people, unfortunately, was estranged. Even her family, she was estranged from. So there came a long time when she wasn't reported missing by people. And she was traveling with the military and such, so that made it possible for that to happen.
I guess that the father and Tanya were not living together because it's so close.
They were not living together.
Can you tell us why it took years to announce to us that they've been identified?
We had 27 years of catching up to do. The needs of the investigation dictated that we withhold that information until we talked to the family. settled their remains and put them later to rest.
When did that funeral service happen?
Within the last month or two.
Sorry.
Could you tell us exactly where she was located?
I'm sorry?
Could you tell us exactly where she was located?
Who are you speaking to?
Peaches and
Peaches' torso was found in Hempstead Lake Park in Lakeview, and the toddler was found in the easternmost point of Ocean Parkway.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to have a press release going out with their names within the hour.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will the
Thank you.
photos be included in the press release?
Scott?
Being the press release?
Yes,
Can you
yes.
just say how the family reacted, knowing by the resolution, what happened? Hold on.
27 years, Dave. A peace case. Okay.
I got them right here, boys. 21.
Just the big ones. These are the Crime Stoppers boards if you want to get more. And it has the photos of them.
I have a question, but I know where it's
All right. If you look there, you can see the photos of who were prior to this news conference, just known as Peaches and Baby Doe. Now they have names. Peaches and Baby Doe. They're the photos. That is Tanya Denise Jackson on the left, born October 22nd, 1970 in Alabama. 26 years old when she was murdered. A U.S. Army veteran. You can see her. She's in her Army fatigues right there. She was living in Brooklyn. She was driving a black Geo Storm, and her daughter. And by the way, shout out to ABC Eyewitness News in New York for that. So the daughter, Tanya's daughter, a young girl, very, very young, 2 years old, Tatiana Marie Dykes. She was born in 95. Of course, that was 2 years before Tanya was murdered. And her remains, I think, were discovered about 14 years ago. You just heard them talk about how investigative genetic genealogy tied this all together. I'm going to start with the sergeant here, Joe Giacalone. You had quietly told me you knew some of this information. I'm not sure how much prior. You're obviously well connected here. What, if anything, are you surprised by here?
I'm not really surprised about anything per se. I've been saying for a while that they knew who she was. I mean, especially that Facebook post that the Mobile, Alabama Police Department had put out in 2022 of October. So, but listen, for investigative purposes, they did exactly what we would have done, and that is hold out that information as you're trying to play catch up on the 27 years worth of information that you have. And the second thing is, we never released the identity of a victim until you spoke to the next of kin. And that was something that it was really important in many different aspects, because as we see, even in the true crime world and all the other videos and people that go out there, you shouldn't be hearing about information the first time on the internet, right? So you want to have, from the police perspective, you want the family to be keyed in on this ahead of time so they don't get sideswiped again.
Yeah. Dr. Megan Sachs is joining us. Women in Crime, Direct Appeal is her podcast. She's a professor at Fairleigh Dickinson. Megan, you grew up right next to, a mile from Rex Heuermann's house, which is creepy enough in and of itself. It struck me because this, I guess I'm not sure. Joe, do you know who this last person was who was giving a lot of the details? Is he the Nassau County Police Commissioner?
No, he was the captain, the head of the homicide squad.
Okay, so he's a captain. Megan, it sounded to me like his voice was like quivering from emotion. It sounds like he was taking this real personally. You heard, I mean, it's sweet and also incredibly morbid and depressing that a funeral home stepped up from the New York area and they were able to basically reunite Tanya and Tatiana. They're the photos, and they were able to bury their remains together back home in Alabama. I guess it goes to show you, obviously, how personally law enforcement takes this. Your thoughts on watching this? What stood out to you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons it is personal, right? It happens in their backyard. They've been working this case now for years. There's so much to be done, but I think this one is probably, this one is more emotional because you have a baby, you have a mother and a daughter. It's incredibly sad when you put the faces together, the names, the identities. The victims here, the families, the whole story is tragic and sad, but when you have a small child, I think that really pulls at everyone's heartstrings a little bit more, and I think it probably motivated everyone to work just a little bit harder because there was such a young, innocent, truly, and all the victims are innocent, but children are innocent in a different way, involved here, so I think that definitely motivates them. And definitely, I'm sure that's the reason why there's also a little bit extra emotion on this one.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into um, you know, this captain made it very clear that there's a possibility, a strong possibility maybe, that it's not connected to the Long Island serial killer. Joe, let's just pick it up there. I mean, he just made it a point to say we don't know that it's connected. Now, I know they want information on Tanya and her daughter Tatiana. Are they saying that so they leave everything open? Is there a chance that they know more right now than they're telling us, and it could be connected, or is it likely that it's not connected because of them asking for all this help?
Okay, so just to take the first thing first, they know exactly what's going on and where they want to head with this investigation. And when you're the police, if you say anything publicly, it's going to be used against them in the court of law if something else happens down the road. So they have to be very generic. They have to be very careful about the words that they use. And of course, they don't want to lead to the speculation. That's what everything else is going to just run with this. But when you take a look at it, right? And one thing that they won't tell you is that cops don't believe in coincidences, right? So you look at this and the fact that everybody is found on the the north side of Ocean Parkway, and that she's the furthest west and her daughter is the furthest east. You just kind of would just scratch your head in that respect. But they, as the professional law enforcement agency, cannot afford to lead anybody into that realm just yet. But I'm sure they're working really close with Suffolk County on this in regards to tying this together. Hopefully, listen, that Rubbermaid bin, I've been saying this for years now, had the most promise to hold some sort of DNA in that, right? The person was put in there. There was, I believe there was tape, there was a pillowcase, and there was a blanket. So the possibility that we've seen now in other cases like Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor, where hairs were found, those are the kind of things when you have that closed end container like that, that really can break this case wide open in regards to who is responsible for the death of these two individuals.
Mm. Um, so Joe, what if you're in Nassau County now? I mean, this is an incredibly complicated case, especially obviously when you consider the whole situation with the Long Island serial killers. Rex Heuermann continues to sit in jail, accused of some of those crimes. What do you do if you're Nassau County Police, particularly this captain running the homicide division? This is obviously something they know. By the way, they said that they started working on this in earnest in 2022. I guess they had a meeting in 2023, and after that meeting, they started traveling to interview people. And in 2024, they ID'd these two, Tanya Denise Jackson and her 2-year-old baby Tatiana Dykes. Also, they said that the father, they did reach the father, and that he's by all accounts not considered a suspect in this, and that Tanya was estranged from a lot of her family, including, I guess, the father of her child. But Joe, if you're Nassau County Police and you heard, I think the prosecutor say this at the beginning, the work is just beginning. What do you do now?
Well, I mean, you're investigating this. You have one homicide victim in your jurisdiction, and that's the case that you have to work on. The baby, unfortunately, is going to fall into the Suffolk County's jurisdiction, but they're going to have to work with Suffolk County in tandem with us until they can figure out who is responsible for Tanya's death. And what that is now going to entail, of course, is just like they said, they want to reach out. There's going to be a lot of calls they're going to get from from those individuals. I mean, when you start naming all the military people and where she worked as in the doctor's office, and she lived in Brooklyn, this is now opening up another series of questions in regards to what other victims can be potentially included in all this. We do know that there was a lot of victims from Brooklyn uh, that have never been solved. There are cases that have never been solved out of Brooklyn. Most of them, if not all of them, are sex workers. We saw now Sandra Costilla, the first one that might have been on this case. It was in 1994, right? I believe it was 1993 or 94. I'm losing my mind over here. But the issue that comes down to is, does this case, besides her daughter, of course, are they connected to any other person or any other victim? And that's where the detectives are going to find us. I mean, as part of the cold case squad, this is what we do. What were the connections? Was there something missed in the last 10 years or so that now this task force, if you look at it, right, when this case really started taking off, that's when the task force was put into play. And this thing has just been going straight hyperbolic right up through the stratosphere. And I think we're going to get a lot more information in the next coming months.
Yeah. So, Joe, I was going to ask you, I mean, because you ran the cold case unit for a while, I think, in the Bronx. So they are offering a $25,000 Crime Stoppers reward. The numbers out there, I think the COE has it as well. And this will be played on the news and it'll be on social media everywhere. How soon can you expect calls to start coming in? And how do you pursue those leads? Let's say someone calls and says, yeah, I worked with Tanya at a base, years ago. How do you follow up with these people? Because they're spread out around the country.
Well, Nassau County's done a good thing by keeping it through one phone number. So the idea behind getting information that is most of the calls they're going to get are not going to be crime tip related. It's going to be, I was in the military with her, I served with her. They'll get her name and they'll put her in contact with the homicide squad. So the Crime Stoppers unit is going to play like the quarterback here, for a lack of a better adjective. And what they're going to do is dish off those calls about, I knew her and I want to talk about it, and then also ones that could potentially be help solve the case. So he says, well, not only did I know her, but maybe I worked with her, right? So they didn't get into her background. They didn't get into how Tanya has fallen into a possible situation like she's in, and how the baby could have been included in all this. They didn't get into that. And I believe that was done intentionally. And I believe that they're hoping that maybe that there's some other people that she worked with or was doing other things with, contact them and then start getting the background on that.
Megan, I promise I'm coming to you, but
No, it's fine.
yeah, as it regards,
Sorry, Megan.
No, not at all.
Joe, as it regards, obviously the literal almost 900-pound elephant in the room is Rex Heuermann. Have they just straightforward gone and asked him? I mean, I know he's lawyered up, but did they go and ask him, hey, did you kill these two people? I assume he's probably not talking, but do you have to go and do that?
Yeah, they can try. I mean, he wouldn't be able to do it without having his lawyer present anyway, but Rex has no reason to talk about anything. They have nothing to hold. They have no leverage on him. This is where I know some people, they get upset when you start mentioning the death penalty, but from a law enforcement perspective, to be able to put that kind of pressure on a suspect in regards to a serial case like we're dealing with now is immense. And when you don't have that, unless the feds step in for some reason, which could get rather interesting also, then right now the death penalty is off the table. And other than that, he's got no other reason to talk or take a plea. He's going to trial with this, and let the chips fall where they may, so to speak. But I think he takes a lot of this with him when he does finally go.
Yeah, well, the chips are going to fall with almost certainly with a conviction on this one, because the evidence is a mountain. But so Dr. Megan Sachs, to you, just put a little bow on some of the information that we got. It was heartbreaking because they showed jewelry, and the jewelry belonged to both of them. A little Tatiana was wearing a necklace and earrings, and those photos will come out. They were obviously released at the press conference. Again, we found out that Tanya, I'm sorry, was born in Alabama, moved around to Texas, Missouri, was living in Brooklyn at the time, working for a medical doctor. She had a female friend, they said. I'm wondering if they knew who that is. I assume they do, who would periodically watch the baby. And then she was a veteran. She served honorably from 1993 to 1995, and that is a time, by the way, when the first Gulf War was going on.
Yeah.
And she was in different bases. But Megan, in terms of a criminology perspective, we hear about murders, we hear about serial killers, but what kind of sick, depraved, deranged human kills a 2-year-old toddler who is with her mother? I mean, I absolutely hate this term, collateral damage, but you think she was obviously in the wrong place at the wrong time, but who would do this?
Yeah, I hate the term collateral damage too, but I would assume that is probably what will be revealed here. And I think you said it properly. The kind of person who doesn't really have any sympathy, any empathy, any feelings at all. So most serial killers, people like to say, oh, they're all psychotic, they're insane. The truth is they're not by any legal standard, but most of them suffer from extreme personality disorders. So they're extremely antisocial, psychopathic at the end of the extreme. And so they lack the types of feelings, emotions, concerns that most of us have. They just don't have that. They don't feel that. And therefore, they are able to continue doing what they do. I think I know that also wanted to point out the victimology will be really important here too. So when we talk about criminology, we talk about the type of person who would perpetrate these crimes. But I think also what's happening now with revealing the victims, their names, who they were. I assume law enforcement, and I know Joe can comment on this more, will now be looking to construct the victimology. What about the victim made her possibly susceptible to this crime? What was going on at her life in the at the time? What types of places was she going to? So all of the aspects about her will become just as important as all the aspects about Rex Heuermann.
Yeah. So, Joe, to that point, the victimology and the profiling of both sides here, both the victims and the suspects. How do you start with that?
Well, now that we, listen, as the public, we know who they are, but they've known who these victims were for quite a while, and they already started discussing the victimology, and that's who she related to. So friends and family and military members that work with her, right, to try to get to know who Tanya Denise Jackson was and try to delve into her life and her background and what would lead her into a position that she ended up being in, right? So, victimology can have a couple of definitions in regards to the criminological sense and in the police sense, right? Why does somebody become a victim, or what precipitated this, what happened beforehand? So there is lots of things that occur within the investigation, of course, but identifying your victim is always step one, because now you can identify, hopefully. Now here's the other thing, Joel, that I caught in the presser. He kept on talking about that Geo Storm, the car. He mentioned it 2 or 3 different times, right?
Yeah.
And there's some other factor I think that they're looking into in regards to that vehicle, because they said they don't have it, but he kept on talking about it because it's really like a non kind of tidbit as far as I'm concerned. You could have said it once, but I think he said at least 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So
he
I
did.
wonder what significance that had.
That's interesting. I mean, Joe, how do you go about tracking down a car from 1997 that could be just melted metal somewhere in a scrapyard?
Yeah, more than likely it is. But you know what, though? Here's the other part of that. You would have thought that Rex's avalanche would have been melted down, squashed in a box too, but it wasn't. It was fully
Yeah.
recovered in South Carolina. So the VIN numbers, if they know who she is, they can go back into the DMV records, find out all her registrations, and then find out exactly what happens to that car, because it doesn't. Nothing happens in a vacuum, specifically with vehicles, so they know exactly what happened to it, or maybe where it is.
Yeah. I mean, Megan, again, back to kind of the criminology aspect of
Yeah.
this. Does it fit the MO? I think it does, of Rex Heuermann, who is the accused Long Island serial killer, who has not been convicted yet.
Right.
He seems to be a cold-hearted, callous, depraved individual by all accounts. So, does this? I mean, would you be? I guess
Yeah.
another way to ask it: would you be stunned or surprised to find out that he is connected to this?
No, no, certainly not. I mean, this certainly fits. The child victim, again, does not fit if the child victim was intentional. So that wouldn't necessarily fit with what we know so far about the perpetrator if it's Rex Heuermann. Um, but also, there's the criminology behind Rex Heuermann too, and what shapes and molds a serial killer. What are some of the myths and misperceptions about them? I don't know too much about his background, but I do believe that Rex Heuermann had some trauma as a child. I know that he lost his father at a pretty young age. I'm pretty sure he was kind of bullied or outcast in school. So I think he has some of the markers you might see in these types of offenders, not necessarily all of them. But I certainly think you're going to see some of that. Oh, I saw you put
Yeah.
up some of the. I think
Yeah.
also here, it's one thing to moving away from Rex for a second. Why is this emotional for law enforcement? It's one thing to call victims by, a designated name, Peaches or a baby. It's quite another when they have a name and when you actually see personal things. Jewelry personalizes it.
Mm.
Jewelry means, oh my gosh, this was a baby who wore jewelry and a woman who, they were living real things and not just victims. It makes it so much more personal.
It's also kind of mind-boggling, but someone pointed out that Tatiana would be 30 years old this year.
Right.
Crazy. So,
Yeah.
she never had a chance to live her life. This is jewelry that belongs to both of them. Tatiana, the baby, was wearing earrings and a necklace. So, and Megan, I know this is not like your area of expertise, but I know you know stuff about it, as does Joe. Just back to this timeline,
Mhm.
2022, they say they came up with this possible identification, and then they started to work on genetic genealogy. Uh, I was surprised that it basically went for 2 full years. I mean, just in kind of simple terms, if you can, when they're doing this investigative genetic genealogy, what is the rough process of what happens?
Is that for Joe?
No, for you, if you can answer it.
Oh, okay. Well, the inner workings of genetic genealogy. I mean, I've seen cases where they solve it really quickly, but to be honest, I mean, this is constructing family trees. Sometimes there are so many suspects that you need to begin with, or so many, not suspects, I'm thinking the other way, so many possible people in family trees that you need to begin with that you actually have numbers spread across possibly even different states. There's interviews that need to happen with those people, there's DNA collection. I mean, there's reasons why this takes a while. Also, there's a DNA backlog, which is a reality. So there's like the practical concerns, but there's also the type of research that might go into it. And Joe might be able to expand on that further.
Yeah, Joe, can you kind of fill in the blanks? I mean, this is a long process, and Joe's got to get going in a few minutes, and we'll wrap it in a few. But I just want to, make sure we dot our I's, cross our T's here. So, why so long on the investigative genetic genealogy? I mean, I know it's a tedious process. They literally had no ID, no idea who these people were, and Tanya lived all over the place. So, what is, just to give people some insight, what are the steps kind of involved in figuring all this out?
Well, that's the whole thing in a nutshell, right? So I wish I would have had this kind of technology when I was in head of the Bronx cold case squad. I could tell you that. But so over the last few years, I've been learning about it and reading about the investigative genetic genealogy. And what I do understand is that you've probably tried to do your own family tree, and you come up with a couple of different aspects of things. And the issue that comes down to in regards to cases like this, where they might only have one side of the tree, like mitochondrial DNA, which is derived from mom, then things get complicated. So they can only then put together half of that tree. So that's probably what we're dealing with in that kind of situation where you have a degraded DNA sample, and then they have to then try to resurrect that, so to speak, through other technology, and then be able to build that tree out.
Yeah. Joe, I'm looking, people think that I'm ignoring you, which I'm not, but I'm looking at Twitter because there's a lot of news travels there. I'm just curious because already the pictures are all over social media, including the jewelry pictures. Like in your opinion, how has social media, personally, I think Twitter is a necessary evil, at least for what I do, but it is a cesspool. But how has it helped, Joe? I mean, people in Alabama, people in Houston, which they mentioned, and all these other bases around the country. I think they might have said Missouri as well. This is going to be on their X feeds right now, instantly. So how has social media changed the landscape for solving crimes?
It's, well, like I said, I call the three forensic horsemen: cell phone records, internet records, which includes, of course, social media, and surveillance video. Those are the three things that are helping law enforcement close cases. But in a situation like this, there may be a lot of people like myself, who are Generation Xers, where we didn't grow up with computers, we didn't grow up with any of these things, and we're putting that right in the same kind of segment. And what do I mean by that? Many of them might not even be doing Twitter or Facebook Live or whatever these other things that go on, but maybe their kids or their grandparents say, "Hey, Dad, weren't you part of this unit?" Right? Or maybe they look on the wall and say, and then they say, "Yeah, why? So did you know this person?" So that's the benefit of having social media, and I think the police are doing a good job trying to learn how to do this, because I could tell you, for one thing, from police experience, we're very reluctant to take on new technology and use it. We kick the can a lot, the poke at the tire kind of thing. But it's a great thing. I just hope that people use it in an ethical way too when you're trying to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I
By the way,
teach about that, Joel, in my class, my crime and media class now. I'm teaching about, the pros and the cons of social media and citizen journalism, people becoming, everyone's a producer now,
Well, tell them it's mostly cons. That's what I say.
Ah.
IGG rocks. This is a good point. I know that African Americans and I believe Latinos, from a ratio perspective, they are less likely, or the numbers are significantly smaller in terms of putting stuff onto testing sites. So it's a little bit harder probably to track them down. Joe, do you know if this is accurate? I believe I've read and heard about this.
Yes, just from one of the people I've spoken to, yes, this is an accurate thing, and that kind of prevents a lot of these connections from being made, also. And listen, IGG is the thing that's really on the front burner in the Fry case that's going on with Rex Heuermann right now, and it's just something that you really this is the future. And if this thing gets through, especially New York, it's like trying to get past the eye of the needle with a camel, whatever that whole saying is. But it's a big deal. So this Fry hearing is a consensus of the scientific community and not the judge's decision per se.
Yeah, Joe, just elaborate on that, and then we'll wrap in a moment. But there was a multi-day hearing recently with Rex Heuermann regarding DNA. What, in a nutshell, what was that about? What was the resolution?
So what happens is the IgG technology that they're using to identify some of these victims that are part of the Rex Heuermann case had not been admitted into court in New York yet. So what happens is they have to have a Fry hearing, and that's Fry with an E at the end of it. And it was basically from a 1923 case, which was part of the lie detector test, but then it is carried over. It is a much tougher standard to get through because you have to have the consensus of scientists to go in there, and that's the argument that Michael Brown has been using in regards to this, saying that it was junk science and it's magic and all the other things that he's throwing out there. But this is also some of the technology that we were using, not from this company, but we were doing this to identify remains from 9/11. I worked on a project for 2 years in New York City with the forensic biology people from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. So I'm pretty familiar with some of the different things. And if it is the same technology that I'm assuming it is, I think this becomes an open and shut case in regards to identifying these victims with him.
Yeah, Michael Brown is the guy with the monumental task of defending Rex Heuermann. Eunice Yedison here. Do we know the cause of death, Joe, of Tanya or Tatiana?
No, they do not know the cause of death. They just have the manner of death as homicide. We do know that Tanya, she was missing all of extremities. They haven't located her skull yet, and that becomes part of the whole makeup. Whoever was responsible, right? They wanted to make sure that she was not identified, but then they left the tattoo behind, and they put her in a tub with all these other things. So there's a lot of mistakes. And one of the things, Joel, and I'm sorry, Megan, I'm taking up all your time too, but
That's all right.
one of the things that I always do in any case is that you come up with your own timeline and you start now putting these things together and you try to find what the first case was, because in my experience I've learned that in serial cases, that first or second case is where the perpetrator made the most mistakes, where he could have given up that identity through DNA or some other type of fingerprint, who knows. But when you start to look at this now, we have Sandra Costilla from 1993, we have Karen Vagata 1996, and now you have Peaches 1997, and that's all these victims remains were found within Gilgo area in that respect. So you start looking at those cases as potential hits, so to speak, and trying to now piece these together. My question is there any connection between the military and some of these other cases? Because I think Sandra Costilla might have had a military connection with her husband or what have you. So there's a couple of different things that I'm working on. I'm not 100% sure yet, but this is what how you put these things together.
Joe Giacalone still solving cases, even though he is retired. So the prosecutor here at the beginning basically said, and one of the law enforcement officers, that solving ages-old cases are really difficult, that we're never going to give up, and went on speaking about technology to say, today there's nothing we can't do. We will always seek justice for victims no matter how much time has passed. And again, you could kind of hear the emotion in the voices of all these people, because today these two people now have names. Prior to today, they did not have names, at least not publicly. They were simply known on the left as Peaches because of a peach and heart tattoo that was found on her, and Baby Doe on the right. But now you see it there. Tanya Denise Jackson, born October 22nd, 1970 in Alabama. She was 26 years old. So today the daughter would be 4 years older than her mother was, which is just crazy to think about. She was a U.S. Army veteran living in Brooklyn, and as Joe pointed out, they mentioned a few times about this black geostorm. The daughter, of course, Tatiana Marie Dykes, born in 1995. She was 2 years old at the time of her death, and you see their jewelry. Absolute horrific tragedy as police are trying to piece this together. Megan, do you have hope? Megan, by the way, is a professor at Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey, and has the podcast Women and Crime and Direct Appeal. Do you have hope that they're going to solve this particular crime? And in your gut, do you think it will ultimately be connected to Rex Heuermann, who's the accused Long Island serial killer?
Yeah, in my gut, I think it's going to trace back to Rex, and yeah, I'm incredibly hopeful about the developments in this case, that it'll be solved. I really am. It's a long, slow burn, but I definitely think this is trending very well in terms of solving it. It takes time. Obviously, a lot more time than we would like.
Yeah. Sergeant Giacalone, you get the last question. It's great to have Joe back. He was just dealing with some things personally, and we missed him, so we will have him back on often. Joe, same question. I mean, do you, in your heart of hearts, do you think this is ultimately, because authorities made it clear that it might not be linked to the Long Island serial killer, aka Rex Heuermann, who's accused? But do you think ultimately it will be linked back? And if not, are they going to be able to track down who committed these crimes, 30 years ago?
Well, I think they have a great lead on who could be responsible for this case. And like I said, I don't believe in coincidences, especially when you looked at, and this will be my final point, especially when you look at his written document that was recovered, where he talked about removing tattoos now and all the other things that go along with it. And if I remember correctly, he had articles about Peaches in his whole file thing. So that's something for food for thought for people out there.
Mhm.
Wow. And Joe, I know you can't answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. If it is connected, if these are connected to Rex, how long before you think we would find that out? I mean, we're talking are we talking months now, a couple of years? What do you think?
Yeah, I think if they can do this, I think we're going to hear about it in the next 3 to 6 months. But I really do think that NASA would wait to see what happens with the Fry hearings, how that goes, and when the trial is going to start in Suffolk County.
Yeah. And Joe, I lied. One last question. I mean, I to be honest, the answer. How many victims have been ID'd now, connected to Rex? Is it like
So he's
7?
been charged with 7 homicides.
7. That's what
So
I
he's been
thought.
charged with 7, and I think when they're all said and done, I think we're going to find out that he might be one of the most prolific serial killers we've ever seen.
That was my question. I mean, do you think we're going to get into the 10s, 20s, 30s with Rex, Joe?
Well, I don't want to put a number on it, but I believe it's a lot more than 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. You heard it here. Joe Giacalone, retired cold case investigator for the NYPD, the best law enforcement agency in the world. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Dr. Megan Sachs. Love you, America. Follow me on Instagram at Surviving the Survivor, Twitter at the Cesspool, known as X, at Podcast STS. I'll post shows and times there, and you can go and check out Joe Giacalone. He's posting stuff on X because I just saw him as I was looking up this story. We'll see you guys later in the day.
Take
Follow
care,
me, and
everyone.
I'll tell you what we're doing. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.